Welcome to Sakshi TV special immigration show with attorney Ms. Sheela Murthy from Murthy Law Firm. Please note that Sakshi TV now has 3 immigration shows every week: on Tuesday at 3 p.m. EST with attorney Ms. Sheela Murthy, Wednesdays at 5:30 p.m. EST with attorney Prashanthi Reddy in English, and on Friday at 6 p.m. EST with Banu Ilindra. Please tune in to ask your questions. If you are an immigration attorney and would like to join our special shows, please email us at usa@sakshi.com or call us at 8667257441. Before we begin the show, please note that the information provided on this show is not a legal advice and for general information purposes only. Sakshi TV or its agents will not be responsible for it. Now, for today's topic, we have H1B visas and the lottery systems. Hello, Ms. Sheela Murthy. I hope you're listening to us.
Yes, I am. Thank you and welcome, Shivani. Good to meet you.
Yes.
And welcome to all of our viewers today.
Yes, it is so nice talking to you again. Ms. Murthy, can you please explain us about any new information this week, any new visa updates?
So we just pointed out that the USCIS, I believe about a week ago, little maybe right around the time of the last call, had the third lottery for the H1B lottery program. And so it's not a lot of cases in compared to the first and the second lotteries, but there are people who may still be eligible. And so if the employer is still willing to process your H1 petition, you were selected in the third H1B lottery because it's a cap subject petition, then take advantage of it. You have 3 months from the time it was selected, I guess, end of November. So it'll be till December, January, February, till like the third week of February of 2022, which will really cut very close to the March pre-registration for the new fiscal year 2023 cases that will be filed next year in 2022 for the fiscal year 2023 USCIS fiscal year, which starts from October 1st, 2022 until September 30th of 2023. Thank you.
Yes. Ms. Murthy, can you tell us about the third lottery system and any information about it?
So as I just explained, it was really the information USCIS sent out a notification towards the end of November, informing people that they have 3 months or 90 days from the date that they were notified. It is the responsibility of the employer or the attorney to go double check which cases were selected and process the petition and get the information so you don't waste precious time. Even though USCIS had made it very clear that they will not have a third lottery because they believed they had picked enough cases between the first and the second lottery, obviously, for whatever reasons, a slew of reasons, employers did not file all of the H1B petitions selected on the lottery. And so if you're eligible, don't waste precious time. Get cracking on it and move ahead with it.
Yes. Now, Ms. Murthy, can you tell us what are the chances of getting a H1B lottery?
Like with every lottery, you still have to prove and establish your eligibility for the criteria. The employer has to show that there's a bona fide job opportunity or a legitimate job opportunity. The complexity of the duties, the job has to be defined as a specialty occupation. All of the criteria required. The person has to have at least a bachelor's or higher degree, the equivalent of a 4-year bachelor's degree in the United States, or a Indian 3+2. Combination education is generally permissible for H1Bs, unlike the green card where you have to show a higher standard. And so you have to meet all of the legal criteria and tests. And the legal standard under the statute, the regulations, and USCIS guidance to hopefully get not just selected, but to get selected, to throw in the application, and to get the H1B approval so that you can actually either travel into the United States on H1 status or switch your status if you are maintaining valid F1 or some other valid non-immigrant visa status in the United States.
Yes. Now, Mrs. Murthy, now that you've explained a little about the third lottery, are there any chances of getting the H1B rejected even after you got selected in the lottery?
So as I just explained, if you don't qualify and meet all of the legal requirements under the statute and the regulations and the guidance, then there is a good chance, if you don't meet it, if the job is not considered a specialty occupation, if the job doesn't require a minimum of a bachelor's degree or higher to perform it, per the Department of Labor and USCIS, then of course, every single case has to show eligibility and meet the legal and statutory as well as regulatory and guidance, USCIS guidance memos, as I just explained.
Yes. Now, Ms. Murthy, can you tell us what are the other options if one's H1B visa lottery has been selected, and what are the other options if they are not been selected?
Well, if they're selected, then hopefully that's why you wanted H1. You go and stay on that status for 3 years and 3 more year extension, and hopefully before that, you will convince the employer to start the green card process, file it, hopefully get the PERM I-140 approval so you can continue to get extensions of the H1B status. If you don't qualify for the H1B lottery to work with a private employer, not a cap exempt employer, then the other alternative is to find a job with a cap exempt employer like a university hospital, a government research organization, etc., that is eligible in a higher institution of higher education, etc., that's eligible for the H1B cap exempt lottery, H1B case, which is not subject to the lottery and the quota, right? Yes. And if you don't get an H1B cap exempt employer, then of course, if you worked in a brand subsidiary affiliate with a foreign company, then the L1 could be an option. If you're a person with outstanding credentials in almost any field, science, art, different fields of endeavor, then possibly the O1 non-immigrant category. If you are an artist or a musician of some kind, depending on what kind of art and music, then the P1, P3 options could be possible for you. So really, each case depends obviously on looking at the person's credentials, the background, the work that they're doing, and which non-immigrant visa classification in the United States under US immigration law the person may qualify for.
Yes. Now, Ms. Murthy, what does the America's STEM workers mean, STEM workers? What does that mean? Can you give a definition about it?
Yes. So STEM is science, technology, engineering, and math, as most people probably know. So if you have studied in one of the STEM fields as an engineering graduate, as a science graduate, math, physics, chemistry, one of those science, technology, engineering, and math fields, then not only do you get the normal 12 months of F1 optional practical training or F1 OPT, but you are actually eligible for an additional 2 more years or 24 more months of the F1 STEM OPT extension for a total of 3 years OPT. But the employer has to sign the I-983 regarding showing that there is a training and mentoring program for the student. The student shows that they are complying with it, and the parties are showing how the employer is eligible and the employee is doing everything that is being done to ensure that U.S. workers are being protected in this process while the students are getting this additional 2 extra years under regulations that were passed back in 2008, I believe.
Yes. Now, Mrs. Murthy, can you explain what is an immigration reform? Can you define it to us?
So immigration reform is any reform or change under U.S. immigration law. So when people keep complaining, saying, we need immigration reform, they just want to reform, meaning clean up the system, because many people feel that U.S. immigration law, it takes too long for people, for example, to get the green card, or it is very complicated and we need to simplify it, or why is it that people from certain countries like India have to wait so many years and years and years, even with a master's degree from the United States, to get their green card, but most others with EB2 classification are able to get the green card approved within 2 or 3 years, but Indians have to wait 10 or 15 or 20 years for the green card. So when people say the US needs immigration reform, what it means is we need to clean up and reform the US immigration law system or the laws.
Yes. Now, why exactly do you think people opt for this? I mean, is there any specific reason or purpose?
So, as I just explained, it's because we're not happy with what's going on. People are saying we need reform. So, if I say I need to reform myself, that means I'm not happy with some qualities that I have and I'm trying to work on myself. So, similarly, it's required because people are trying to reform, meaning trying to get their act together and want US immigration to become more streamlined and efficient and, focused, basically.
Yes. Now, how different is this from the comprehensive reform? So, how different is this? How different are both of these terms?
So comprehensive immigration reform is nice saying, don't just repair this small piece, repair everything in immigration law. Comprehensive means like an umbrella. Don't just focus on one or two things that aren't working, and then that will create complications in another area. Let's focus on making sure that we comprehensively, with a big picture, look at every aspect and issue of US immigration law so that non-immigrant sector, immigrant sector, people who are legal, people who have come undocumented, people with high level of education, people are called essential workers, look at all the different aspects and ensure that comprehensively we address every single issue that's possible under US immigration law. Now, I can tell you for sure that even if you're able to solve the problem with a lot of issues, there'll still always be some people unhappy with anything that is done, because immigration is one of those issues in the United States that a lot of smart, bright, intelligent people don't see eye to eye.
Yes. Now, do you think that the Congress will pass this reform, and what are your views on it?
Yeah, so this is, as I just said, there are a lot of smart people that differ in how they look at this whole issue. So do I expect something to pass? Honestly, with the economy as it is, with the Omicron variant that has come out within the last week or 10 days, the virus, the COVID-19 coronavirus, the impact on the economy, the stock market is sort of gyrating up and down. People are nervous, people are scared to travel. So I don't know that the US legislature, called Congress, different from like Congress party, it's not a party in the United States, it's the legislature, unlike in India, where Congress is the political
Yes.
party. In the United States, the US legislature has to decide where they want to focus their time and attention. And I think a lot of it is addressing President Joe Biden's $1 trillion infrastructure plan, trying to figure out how to make it better for employers to, the economy to rebound, to how, whether to focus on, interest rates. So there's a lot of other issues that I think that the administration is focused on right now, dealing with a crisis and a global emergency, a health pandemic. But Congress also, and the members in both the US House of Representatives and the US Senate, are extremely focused on other issues. And immigration right now, I don't believe, is the topmost issue for Congress to focus on.
Yes. Now, Ms. Murthy, can you tell your views on how this immigration reform will affect the union and the economy? Now that you've just explained us, can you give a brief more information about it?
How it'll affect the union?
Yes.
What do you mean, like trade unions, or you mean the union meaning the country?
Yeah, the country in general, the economy as well.
So, I mean, look, those of us who are who believe that the greatness of America lies to a large extent in the hard work and the devotion and the dedication of immigrants across the ages that have come to this country and helped it to become a global leader in science, technology, engineering, math, arts, science, you name it. We believe that 50% of the STEM graduates, the Nobel Prize winners are in the field of STEM are foreign born. So we believe that, and there's research to show that, and statistics, that the US economy will benefit by having immigrants help the country And each time you hire a foreign worker, for example, on an H1B, that H1B job that is created for a foreign worker actually adds 2 more jobs for American workers. Because life is not a zero-sum proposition. But a lot of other people feel that no. If an Indian or some other foreign national comes and takes away a job, that means you're taking away a job from an American, from a US worker who could have done that job. The reason that economists believe that's not true is because America has very, very low unemployment. Right now, the American economy's unemployment is less than 4.2% or thereabouts. It is one of the lowest unemployment. And a lot of economists say that any unemployment below 7% is actually close to 0%, because that means those are the people who are either not looking for jobs or seriously don't want jobs. We know from what's going on in the US economy that there's a huge need for workers, particularly professional, high-skilled workers, but workers at every level, even less skilled workers, there is a big shortage today in America. So bringing in foreign workers who are highly educated, who are college educated in the US, particularly with US masters and bachelor's and master's degrees, it's better for them to stay here and improve the US economy than go back into certain countries that may have a surplus of people, surplus of educated graduates, and not enough jobs to get them all fabulous jobs, especially because many parts of the world have been impacted by COVID-19 and their economies have been shattered. US had a problem with the economy last year in 2020, but this year in 2021, the economy has just rebounded with and doing very, very well. Jobs are being filled up. Unemployment is very low. All the fiscal stimulus from the federal government has really made a huge difference in how much, how businesses are growing and expanding. And in fact, what's holding companies back from growing faster, of course, is the fact that they are not able to find skilled workers, which is where immigration law, bringing in H1B workers, skilled workers, non-immigrants on temporary visas and permanent green card visas can be extremely critical and beneficial for the US economy.
Yes. Yes, Ms. Murthy. Now, Ms. Murthy, from an immigrant's point of view, why do you think is this immigration reform very important, especially to the immigrants? How is that useful to them?
So right now, most Indians, for example, have to wait 10, 15, 20 years to get their green card. And so to tell them, it's not fair because of the stress. Sometimes their children who are young teenagers when they came to this country, or 10 or 12, end up not being able to get the green card with the parents, and they have to go through the whole process and spend another 10, 20 years to get their green cards and spend tens of thousands of dollars to get the green card and filing fees and legal fees and processing fees. So, the morale of people, the lengthy process, everything should be taken into account in deciding, why immigration law, of course, and reforming immigration law is so critical for the US economy, is critical to attract and retain the best global talent. And so it's overall really, really important. I'm kind of surprised that we don't have, 50 people waiting in line for questions today, Shivani.
Yes. Yes, Ms. Murthy, can you tell us why is everything, all of this immigration reform so urgent? What is the need for it? I know now that you've explained about the economy, is it something related to that, or does it have any other specific reason?
So immigration reform is because a lot of people are afraid about people who are out of status in this country, who have come in, who have worked for the last 10, 15, 20 years, and who are hiding and unable to get a legal job and a legal paycheck because they don't have employment authorization. A lot of people who cross the border. So I think people are worried about them. And then children who came as minor children, they call them dreamers. They came into this country, and unfortunately, they have not been able to, even if they have studied in the US, done their high school, they came when they were 2 years old, let's say. That child is not able to get any immigration paperwork, cannot go to college in many cases, or even if they graduate from college or university, they cannot find a job because they don't have legal status. So on a humanitarian and humane basis, I think people think we need global immigration reform in the United States on a comprehensive level.
Yes. Now, Ms. Murthy, this is another topic. Can you tell us what is a conditional permanent residence? What is the meaning about it?
Sure. So there are generally two ways you can get conditional permanent resident status. One is when you get married, for example, to a US citizen or a green card holder, and you get your and you file your paperwork. When the US, if the marriage is less than 2 years old, then the foreign born spouse will only get a 2-year conditional green card. The other common place where a person gets a conditional green card is when the person gets an EB-5 investor visa. As most of us know, earlier this year, in June of 2021, the US Congress, the US legislature did not extend the EB-5 for regional centers. So only those with direct investments in foreign international businesses can apply for the EB-5. And so those people who get the EB-5 approval will get a 2-year conditional green card, and 2 years before the 2 years are over, the person has to file additional paperwork to remove the conditions on residency in both cases, in the family-based case and in the employment EB-5 case, to get the unconditional green card, to show eligibility in the case of the marriage, that the marriage is still continuing, that the parties are still living together with the US citizen spouse, etc., to meet the requirements. And in the other case, in EB-5, to show that the 10 people who are US workers are working full time, that the investment amount that was promised has been completed, that the business is still running, etc. So it's obviously better to get an unconditional permanent green card than to get a conditional green card, because if you have problems, then the USCIS will not remove the conditions, and you could end up after thinking that you're a permanent resident, you now have to leave the United States if the marriage falls apart, there's a divorce in the marriage case, or the business is having problems. COVID-19 happened, for example, in the last 2 years, and the economy and certain businesses were negatively or adversely impacted. Well, those people might have a problem retaining 10 full-time workers.
Yes. Now, Ms. Murthy, especially after the Omicron variant breakout, what are the most common issues that the H1B or the L2 visa holders are facing right now?
Okay, so there's really no major problem that H2 or H1B or L1, L2 people are facing, in the sense they are still having their jobs, the economy is chugging along, employers are generally filing extensions and renewals, a lot of cap cases. We just heard about the third registration that was selected for more cases, and many of the employers are ready to file those cases. I know it doesn't help to tell people to wait so long to kind of file, but it really has no impact, because the economy is doing very, very well in the United States right now. Overall, some industries have been adversely affected, but overall, there's a huge demand for workers and workforce. And so H1s and L1s and other professionals, and especially skilled professionals, are not impacted.
Yes. Now, Ms. Murthy, can you tell us what is this EAGLE Act, and can you explain this, because a lot of people are actually really confused about it?
The what act?
EAGLE Act, EAGLE.
So I tell people all the time, unless a law is passed, don't look at a bill, because what could happen is a lot of people read, oh, it passed the House of Representatives. Oh, this passed this. Until it is signed by both houses and placed on the president's desk and the president signs it. Honestly, it's better not to focus on pending bills and potential drafts of acts that are presented. And the reason is, people get confused. They think, oh, EAGLE Act, that means the law is passed. Oh, that means I can start planning. No, you can't. Because even though it's called the EAGLE Act, it's not really a law until it is passed by both houses of Congress and signed into law by the president. So my philosophy in general is, do not waste your time looking at the EAGLE Act or any other act that is still pending because all of these bills over the years, many of them don't pass. If they pass, it is in varying degrees. And it can get very confusing and frustrating for people who rely on it because people read it up and say, oh, I can do this. Oh, I can get all these unused immigrant visa numbers from my use and I'm going to get my green card in 6 months. No, until that bill is passed, until the overflow numbers are available, until Congress does something, unless it's the automatic under existing law and statute and regulations, do not put all your eggs in a basket that is going to break.
Yes, that is actually a very good suggestion. Now, Ms. Murthy, can you tell us, now that you're an attorney yourself, especially during the past few months, what was the most common case or issues people came to you and asked for help?
Okay, so I think, for example, a year ago when the pandemic first started, the biggest concern was I could potentially lose my job, a pink slip, a layoff, etc. Right now, it's the opposite problem. Now it's like I'm getting 2 or 3 job offers. I'm in the middle of my 485 process, or can I switch jobs? Can I switch employers? What should I do? How risky is it? My 485 is pending more than 180 days. My new job is same or similar, but I don't know if it's really same or similar. Can I look at the job duties? Can I continue my green card process? Or some people who aren't yet married, how can I bring my spouse into the United States for my spouse to enter the US and, join me, especially if they gave up their H1B status. Then there's a big question about, okay, if they can't come in, now I have to get a new H1B approved because I was relying on my 485 and EAD card. And now how can I bring my spouse? Because that could result in a 2-year separation of the parties if one of them has to do consular processing following to join while the principal applicant gets the green card in the United States. So there are all kinds of complex and difficult issues. In fact, just today, 25 of us lawyers at the Murthy law firm were sitting in a circle analyzing and discussing the very complex and difficult issues dealing with F1 student issues. Lots of students inadvertently fall out of status, the F1 reinstatement rules, how to get back into CVIS record, and if the university, the international student advisor or designated school official does not give you a new CVIS or does not reinstate you on the old CVIS because there's problems and issues a new CVIS number, then you may have to travel abroad, use the old visa and come back, or if the old visa is expired, then re-enter on a new visa. And only if you're in status can you switch from F1 to H1B within the United States if you're trying to file a capped subject petition based on now the third lottery registration selection. So there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of complex, different, nuanced issues that are happening all the time that could really complicate and make issues difficult.
Yes. Ms. Murthy, it was so nice talking to you. You gave an amazing suggestions to all the people watching. Thank you so much for coming on to our show. Thank you to the viewers for tuning in. You're watching me, Shivani Raj, on Sakshi TV.